For the lab this week, there are a few steps that students in the past have had trouble with, so I thought I'd help you out with those and give you some ideas. So for the most part, the lab is doable, but these few steps might give you trouble. One of the questions in the lab asks you to make an outline similar to what you see over here on the right. I want to make these words look exactly the same as what you see here on the right. So what we're going to do is first highlight all of those words. And we talked before in the Home tab about the multi-level list. And it's going to be, the first one appears for me as has a 1, an A, an I. That's the one we'll choose. You'll notice the very first thing it does is it it assumes all of them are numbered. But we can see pre-colonization needs to be tabbed over, so you simply click before the word and press tab. And then, this is to mimic if you were taking notes in a history class or something. Pre-colonization in American history, there was past to 1550 and 1550 to 1750. Those are all subcategories of pre-colonization. So all you got to do is press the tab to make it go over. And again, if you hold shift and press tab, it'll make it go backwards. So what you're going to do is just try to make this look as close as you can to what you see on the right. There are a few differences though. So let me show you. Revolutionary Era. Notice right here under Revolutionary Era it says 3 or III, the Roman numeral 3, but mine says just a 1 or an I right here. So we need to make this a 3. The last thing you want to do is type in III because then it won't be updatable. So what you do is you right click on that I and you say, you set the numbering value. So for whatever reason, you might not want to start off at 1. You can start off at 2 or 3. And so I just updated that. So again, you right click and set the numbering value to be whatever it is that you want. Maybe from a previous list or a new list. So I'm pretending that I'm continuing the list on from the previous A. And so that's how you get these numbers. Same thing down here under world history, it says G. And so normally that will be an A because that's the first category or subcategory under world history. But you just set that to a G. Let me show you world history, prehistory. So we click, press tab, right click on the A, set numbering value, and just scroll up until you get to the G. All right, another problem that students have is completing this. This is just a little picture. What you need to do is recreate it using font styles up here. So for the most part, what I do is I just typically type it all in first. x1, 2, minus x2, 3, minus p plus q plus n. And then you just go and highlight each character. And up here under font, you'll choose a subscript for the 1, a superscript for the 2, so on and so forth. So that's probably the fastest way to do these. The P is underlined with the space. And the Q is a strike through. And the N is a double strike through. So notice there's no double strike through, so you have to open up the extra font options. Now you can normally create this using the equation editor under the Insert tab, but we haven't learned about that yet. We'll do that next week. Next it says fix the spacing between this line. Notice there's not much room there. So if you go again to the Home tab, that's an issue with spacing. And so it's set to 1, but let's click on line spacing options and see what other options there are. So, and I just realized the spacing the problem is on the second line, not the first line. So I need to click on the second line. Again, go to the line spacing option. And it looks like there's some kind of extra half a character there. And it looks like the spacing is half when it should be at least 1. And that'll make the spacing better. Next, we want to make the words in these 3 lines match what you see in this picture. So again, to add tab stops, you want to highlight all 3 lines, add the tab stop that you see in the picture. So here's a left tab stop. It appears right on the 1 3/4 inch line, as well as another tab stop, a right tab stop at the 6 1/4 inch line. And then you will press tab on each line, and that'll line up the words on the left. And then if you click before the chapter names and press tab, it'll line up the right side of those words on the right. So that's how you do that step. Now you need to add the leader. To remind you, you highlight the words, you click on the paragraph settings button, and then under tabs, the tabs button, you have some leader options. And so we want the leader to go before the 6 1/4 inch right here. We want it to go before the 6 1/4 inch. So you click on that, and then you choose the leader that you want and press OK. Similarly, we want to line up these dots. So if we highlight these, you can press space and try to get them to line up, but they won't be perfect. To get them to be exactly perfect, you will use the decimal tab stop. So you click that button until that shows up, and then you say, where do you want them to line up? Pick a spot. And once again, I only did it for that one line. I need to highlight all of the lines to add the tab stop to each of those 3 lines. And now it'll line those decimals up, one on top of the other, in line with that tab stop. A couple other things. It says change the indenting on this sentence using only the hourglass. So I'm talking about this guy right here, these indentation tools. And it says make it so the first line indents to the 1.7 inch mark. So the first line, you use the top of the hourglass. Oops. And again, my cursor was up here on this line. I have to actually be in this paragraph to get this to work. So I'll use the first line to move it to 1.75, and it says make the second line so it is at the 0.75 inch mark. So you grab the very top of this bottom triangle and move it over to the 0.75 inch mark. Again, if you grab that little rectangle below, it'll move them both over, so you don't want to do that. You might, but not in this case. And lastly, this says remove the spacing between this line and the picture below. You notice there's a lot of space there, and you may not want that space, so that is going to be under the line spacing, and you just choose remove space after paragraph, and there you go. Make sure to take the quiz now that you've watched all these videos, and you can begin your homework and your lab.